My name's Gavin McClurg. Since 2009, I've been running a company that's very small called Offshore Odysseys. We're engaged in providing adventure travel at sea. So we run boats offshore, kind of around the world, mostly in search of wind and waves. And the last 5 or 6 years, we've been pretty engaged in philanthropic stuff. So trying to just raise a global awareness of what's happening to the oceans and kind of the environmental catastrophe that's upon us all. So, yeah, but mostly our business is adventure travel. For the 8 years before the Best Odyssey, and actually what kind of laid the groundwork for it and what gave us the ideas and kind of how we were able to implement it was I set off offshore for the first time in '99 on a monohull, a boat, and I didn't have really any money, so to fund it, we did charters for anything, sailing, to learn how to sail offshore and diving and surfing and whatever. It was just anything to kind of bring in some income. We never actually made any money. It was just kind of enough to always keep us going. So that was mostly, we spent 6 years in the South Pacific, and then a couple years in Australasia and the Coral Sea and around Indonesia and the outside of Sumatra and then up to Thailand. We sold that boat in 2005, and it took us about a year to put together the Best Odyssey. So that was just all that experience. In 2004, we actually I met Jody McDonald, my partner, and my girlfriend, and she had just taken some lessons to learn how to kiteboard just after Halloween in 2003. And so we were looking for kind of a different market, a way to bring in more clients. And we started selling trips to kiteboarders really even before we were kiters ourselves. And one of our first trips was with the F1 team, Rafael Salas and a bunch of his riders, Etienne Lotte and Charlotte Consorti and some others came out to Fiji, and they shot a film, and they were on board for, I don't know, a couple weeks. And a lot of articles got launched in that, and that kind of was the initial light bulb. That kind of gave us the idea, like, oh, maybe this kiteboarding thing is something we can pursue and run as a business. And we really liked it a lot more than a lot of the other kind of sports and things that we were involved in at the time. So that was the initial light bulb. And then we did a bunch of surf charters in Indonesia in the following years, and just kind of kept coming back to kiteboarding, thinking that maybe this was a means for us to kind of keep exploring and keep pushing the limits of what's being done in the ocean, but have a means to fund it. So that's how we kind of came up with the timeshare concept of the Best Odyssey.
The current issue of the Kiteboarder Magazine has a big 13-page article on just kind of a wrap-up of the whole event. And when we started talking about this, I asked you to pick, like the most standout moments from the whole circumnavigation and expand on some of your logs that you're doing during the time. But I think a lot of people are surprised to read that there's a lot of low points. Do you think a lot of people are surprised to learn about the work that goes on behind the scenes?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the people that joined us over the years, our owners, they were really truly owners in the whole expedition. They were kind of investors in the project. They certainly saw it from our side of the fence. I don't think anybody really saw the whole picture. And so I definitely tried to write honest kind of portrayals of what we were going through out there. Obviously, I mean, I wouldn't change a day of it. I wouldn't have wanted to go back and rewrite any of the history that we did, but it was certainly, we knew, because I ran a boat before this for 8 years, we knew how hard it was going to be. But that said, of all the jobs I've had, I worked on a hotshot crew of firefighting and was a commercial fisherman up in Alaska, and then I was instructor for Outward Bound for a bunch of years. I've done a lot of different kinds of jobs. This was by far leaps and bounds the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm really proud of it. And I do it again, but I think that is something that people are really surprised about. Is it's just I always say it this way: imagine having, you know, a lot of guests, not just a couple, but a lot of guests in your home, 200 days out of the year, and then imagine that that home is moving, shaking, rocking, and rolling, and you're in charge of all those people's safety at sea. And then and that's actually the easiest part, is when people are on board. It's between the trips, it's just this mad dash of provisioning and moving the boat to the next place and maintenance and fixing all the stuff that's broken and dealing with passports and visas and customs. That's actually the biggest headache, is dealing with all the bureaucracy in all these different countries. So it's kind of a monumental. I mean, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It's just a lot of things have to come together, and there were quite a few times. I think I alluded to this in the article. There were a lot of times where we almost pulled the plug, where we just really felt like we couldn't handle it anymore. And of course, then you'd have the next day, you'd wake up and something epic would happen, and you kind of forget about all that stuff. You know, just like anything in life, you know, you got to have the challenges to define who you are. And you know, so I think that when I look back now, I remember all the good stuff. That the bad stuff just kind of fades away. I mean, I guess probably the hardest time we went through, when we got the closest to pulling the plug, was the first year. It's a bit of a longer story, but to give you the short of it, you know, when we bought the boat, we were quite well underfunded, so I had to borrow a bunch of money. I never liked doing that. That was scary. And then, you know, we bought the boat, sailed 12 hours after we bought it. We had no tools, no spares, no bedding. All we had is we bought a bunch of food the night before, and sailed from Italy to the Caribbean. So it was 5,600 miles. It was like 21 days. Brief stop in the Canaries for more provisions and more fuel. And then we started our 5-year around the world trip in the Caribbean, and so that was first kind of 6-8 months where we never got caught up. We were always so far behind, and we were trying to present this face and that everything was okay. And the reality was we were well underfunded. I owed a bunch of people money. You know, we felt like we were just doing what we'd done the 8 years all over again, but we were older and supposedly wiser. And I think on our 4th trip, I never wrote about this, never put in any log, and now I can talk about it because it's all over and nobody's going to get mad. But on our 4th trip, we slammed into a reef, nearly lost it all, and there was the only reason. Jody was at the helm, but it was completely my fault. I was completely exhausted. I'd put a waypoint in wrong. I made an absolute green, idiotic error that you know, anybody with a driver's license wouldn't have made, and we just got lucky, and we were able to back off the reef. We put a big hole in the boat, and we were in a place where we could haul the boat. We were very, very fortunate, very lucky. The whole thing ended up costing like $5,000. It was nothing in the big scheme of things, and yet we were on a trip. We had guests on board. You know, we had to haul the boat out between trips. We had 3 days. We had to haul it out, do all this fiberglass repair, put the boat back in the water, and keep going. And it was kind of like that for the first 6-8 months. It was like, my God, we never had a second to ourselves, and there was a lot of stress. And eventually, before we went through the Panama Canal, I really felt like that was the commitment. You know, once we went through the Panama Canal, we're in the Pacific. Logistically, everything just gets ramped up. It's always a lot harder. And Jody and I had long talks about just, can we do this? And do we want to do this? You know, for the first 3 years of the expedition, I didn't make a penny in salary. Everything that my supposed salary just went right back into the company, and that's just a classic startup scene. I mean, that's what everybody goes through to get a company going. But at some point, you start asking yourself, like, you know, we're working really hard. I think we should probably. I don't know if the benefits are outweighing the negatives, and but. Of course they do, and they did. It just took us a little while to get there. And like those down times, those dark days thankfully, they were brief, and they were always overshadowed by, you know, I mean, I think even in those days, I always felt like I woke up and went, you know what, this is a pretty good office. I need to be really appreciative of this and thankful of this, because it's not going to last forever. And to tell you the truth, since it just ended in October, this last, you know, just a few months ago, it's a hard adjustment.
The boat's out of the water right now, getting ready for another trip. Was that always the plan?
No, it wasn't at all. Actually, our exit strategy, actually under contract, was that we would complete the 5 years. We'd run the 90 trips. Everybody'd be hopefully psyched and satisfied, which I think they were. And then we were going to sell the boat. Everybody gets a little bit of their money back, and Jody and I have been really excited the last couple of years to kind of get involved in some other things, and through a number of different things happened. And this is actually news that no one else knows, so I'll announce it here. But just a few months ago, the boat's been out of the water since early November, and we were just prepping her for sale, and I ended up having a conversation with our friend Pete Cabrinha, and just before Christmas, and he said, "Well, listen, what are you guys doing? And we might be really excited about doing something with you." And as you know, Best Kiteboarding was our title sponsor for the last 5 years, and so I just thought, wow, that'd be pretty. Pete was on with us in the Marshall Islands in 2009. You asked about what were the best places. That was definitely a real highlight of the expedition of those 5 years for sure. Was with those guys on board. Anyway, so that was kind of a little bit of a wake up call. We kind of thought, wow, there's our brand and our image is maybe something that we can keep using, and rather than just starting a completely new gig, doing something completely different. Maybe we can leverage this in a little way. And I just knew personally that I didn't have the energy to go out and run the boat for another 5 years. But about the same time, one of our fans for a bunch of years and fellow skipper, and he was a semi-pro kiter for quite a long time. He's a lot better than I am for sure. He approached us and said, listen, if there's any way we can put this together, I'd love to run the boat, and maybe we can turn this thing. And it took us a few weeks to get our heads around it, but we have decided to move forward with another expedition. It will be called the Cabrinha Quest, and we're just putting the kind of final touches on all of that. But Cabrinha's really psyched. We're thrilled to be working with them, and we're going to do another 5 years. This one's going to be more focused on the Best Odyssey went around the world. This one's going to be more focused on just the Pacific. I mean, the first year is Brazil and the Caribbean and through the canal, but years 2 through 5 will be basically between Chile, all of the South Pacific, and the Coral Sea. So we'll just be doing huge laps through the biggest ocean in the world, and we've found that that's just the best place to have a boat for what we're doing. There's unlimited fetch, waves and wind out there are just pure, and it kind of keeps all the punters away. You just don't have. You have very few boats, especially with the economy where it is now and has been the last few years. There's just almost nobody out there, and so that's quite special. The first time around with the Best Odyssey, we had to figure out things like offshore banking and incorporating offshore and contracts and all the little things that came together, trusts and all that kind of stuff that came together to make it happen. We were collecting money, we were soliciting money from people from around the world via the internet. So that's kind of a challenging thing to do, and have everything obviously be legitimate. We had to get a lot of sponsors. That was quite a whole journey in itself, was how to get sponsorship and how to bring really good companies on board with us and then represent them really well. And so this time around, it's just in every way it's easier. I'm still finding it an incredible amount of work. We're working really hard to put this together, but in a lot of ways it's just easier, and I think it's just more refined, because you have all those little things like auto responses and different versions of every email kind of put together from the last 13 years that we've been at sea. So this time around it's a membership instead of ownership, so that just makes it quite a bit more flexible both for us and for the people joining. I think it's a much better program in terms of that way. In terms of funding, it removes kind of all the risk and liability from the people joining us. So, in other words, if the boat has a major accident or something happens that you just can't anticipate, which things do happen out there, then they're not. They're basically completely separated from what we're doing. So we think we found a really good solution to carry on and keep it going. And Sales have been great. We've just hit the mark that we needed to a couple weeks ago. So the boat will be getting back in the water here in early May, and it'll be heading to Brazil in early June. I think that the people who join and the places we go, I mean, it's like anything in life. It doesn't really matter the backdrop and necessarily what you're doing. It's all about the people you're doing it with. You know, you can have a really good time anywhere if you've got awesome folks to do it with. And I mean, I think that that's something that we have. It's really very special, and like you know, like we were talking about earlier, it carries you through those dark days. But I'm really excited actually for what's going on. I'm still going to go out and run 3 or 4 trips a year and give Sion a break. And our chef Bobby from Bali is coming back. He was with us for the last couple of years, so it really truly is a family, and we're excited to keep it going, and really excited to kind of keep pushing kite surfing. You know, our vision has always kind of been waves, and you know, of course, we find those kind of tranquil, beautiful lagoons as well, and love flat water kiteboarding like everybody else. But you know, when you find these, you know, swells wrapping around these uninhabited islands, it's pretty special.
Now, where can people go for more information if they want to keep track of what you guys are up to or learn more about the project?
The best place is our website. We put a lot of stuff on our Facebook page, which is Best Odyssey. And then our website is offshoreodysseys.com, which is marketing blunder 101. Odysseys is obviously really hard to spell, but it's ODYSSEYS.com. Of course, the new entity is called the Cabrinha Quest, so probably near the end of April or early May, we'll have a completely redesigned new website. Cabrinha and ourselves are putting all that together, the logo and and the look and the announcement and everything else. So, like I said, that's not even public. You know, it's not even public knowledge yet. So we're really excited about that, and of course we'll have that out publicly as soon as we can.